Welcome to the U2 Comcast. I'm Diane Rasmussen, Pennington. Today we're talking with Ingunn Røysland about her master's thesis called Raised by Wolves, U2, Trauma and the Troubles. She completed it in 2020 in the Department of Foreign Languages and Translation at the University of Agder in Norway. Ingunn is from the south of Norway. She's a mother of 5 children and a grandmother of 1, and she teaches German and English to junior high and high school students. U2 Concasts are here for enhancing our understanding and enjoyment of U2 and the fan experience. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below or by reaching out to us at u2conference.com. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with our conversations. And thanks for tuning in today. Now, Ingunn is going to start first with a short presentation about her thesis, and then we'll have a discussion with her about it. So Ingunn, whenever you're ready, I would love to hear about it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's I'm really appreciated. Yeah, I submitted the thesis 1 year ago, and in the thesis I wanted to explore how U2 approach the Troubles as a series of traumatic events. So I was looking into the lyrics, trying to find evidence of a traumatic character. Describing or being related to the Troubles, to the Northern Irish conflict. And I have applied various theoretical frameworks for that. And my master consists of 3 chapters, and then there's an introduction providing for the historical backdrop. And at the very end, after the conclusion, I've added the 10 songs that I've been looking into. So I picked 10 songs spanning from early songs like Sunday Bloody Sunday till more recent songs, Raised by Wolves, and some in between. So I think I will be talking a little bit about the different chapters and what kind of theoretical framework I've been applying for the various songs, or cluster of songs. If anybody had told me 2 years ago that I would be writing a master thesis, writing 1 chapter about the song Sunday Bloody Sunday, I wouldn't have believed it, because how is that possible? But I had the greatest supervisor. He's very capable and really the most supportive supervisor you could ever get. And yes, I tried this challenge, and I wrote about 10,000 words only on Sunday Bloody Sunday, discussing the writing of the song, how it came about, also looking into the historical context, this Bloody Sunday happening in Northern Ireland in 1972. And then I had like a little kind of a struggle with this theoretical framework here, because I looked into a scholar called Hirsch, and he's written a book, I think many years ago, Validity in Interpretation, dealing with meaning versus significance. And according to him, the meaning then of the song, of the lyrics, is fixed by the author, in this case U2. But during the course of time, there might be a change, not in the meaning, he says, but in significance. Meaning that how you interpret the song has to do with who is reading it or listening to it, and when. And I can take that myself as an example, because I've been like a U2 fan for 4 decades. And of course, when I was, let's say, 14, or being introduced to U2 by some friends on my childhood island, I of course look at it in a different way now, being 52 years old. Have a little bit more experience than I had in those days. So that's in a way an example of how this works. And in this chapter, I have also looked closely at different framings of the song by the band. And what is a bit intriguing here is that it's U2, the band itself, that changes those significances in general, or it's most likely the audience who would change the significance. But in this case, with this song, U2 has used it to support various conflicts around the world, and I think it's pretty amazing how they do that, trying to mediate, not taking sides, trying to be neutral. And of course, some people will criticize that, and Bono has even said himself that, oh yeah, people say I can't relate to it because I'm from Ireland, not from Northern Ireland, but still I think they have a say, and what they have done is, it's important, I find. Yeah. So basically, this is the first chapter, and I really struggled hard 2 nights in my kitchen in the valley, hours away from university, but I managed. And then kicking off the chapter 2, moving then from the early 80s to the 1990s, dealing with lyrics having to do with love and peace. In this chapter, I applied a theoretical framework called, like we can say, political allegory, and a scholar called Tambling. I dived into some of his work and discovered then that songs that I originally thought were more like relationship songs, and I think, yeah, they are in one way, but during this study, I found them to be political allegory, that behind this allegorical veil, one could say, there are then layers of or allusions to incidents that took place during the Troubles. So that was also very interesting. And the love also depicted in those songs is not love in an idealist way, not ideal love. There's a lot of hurt in that love. And I saw an interview once with Bono, people coming up to him saying, oh, we chose one for our wedding. And he was just like, oh, right, this is not like, yeah, good. Maybe you have been through a lot, then it's great. But originally it's not just idyllic, no. So, but I think it describes life. It describes the hurt and the pain that one can encounter in life as well. And I really like those things about, especially Bono writing. He's talking also about the Psalms in the Bible, talking to the belated Eugene Peterson, who translated the Bible, the Message, into contemporary language, which I really find it's great. And the way that he talks, he's honest about life. He writes about your hurt, writes about whatever it is, and he has himself experienced trauma, and I take a huge I'm very inspired by him, how he copes through all of this. I'm not dealing so much with that, but this is what I think when I'm talking about him, because he's a huge inspiration for me. And then this also interesting because and of course throughout this master there is this extra focus on trauma and trauma theory, which I find very interesting. And what is interesting also in the third and final chapter, I'm dealing with U2 and the band members' own experience with the Troubles. Maybe not as first victims, like maybe through secondary victimhood, but people that they knew about experiencing it in Dublin during this Dublin bombing that took place in 1974. And I thank God that there was a bus strike that day, because Bono was on his bike and he wasn't affected by it, because if not, he would have been in a music store on Tablet Street. I've been on that street, I know where it is. So it was really hard, and it affected a neighboring friend on Cedarwood Road. And I've read a lot about that. And this Raised by Wolf, this song that I address in the final chapter, along with other songs, it's almost like an eyewitness account of what happened on that specific day. And And in this very chapter, I then apply this the confessionalism as a framing device. This exposure of raw and brutal pain, again describing life as it might be at the most painful place you could ever be to witness such a thing, and those people affected. So I found that very interesting, and I also deal with songs, the Cedarwood Road, Bono's Childhood Street, and Peace on Earth. Maybe there was another song I have forgotten in the rush here, but yeah, the Troubles songs, of course. Yeah, so I think that's very interesting, and I wasn't aware of the song called The Troubles before my supervisor made me aware of it, and found that really interesting, and that is also a song that definitely has more than one layer. It's could be related to the Troubles, but it definitely also, as I see it, describes domestic abuse and ways of belittlement and a lot of traumatic evidence. That's part of my conclusion, that in those songs there's so much of traumatic evidence, and there's so many. When I heard trauma before, I think trauma is trauma, but there are so many different ways of describing it, and the lyrics that I have been dealing with address both individual trauma, but also collective trauma affecting like a nation or a group of people, and there's also a distinction between punctual trauma, this sudden incident, this bombing, for example. But the songs, especially when you look at it for the angle of love, like depicting a relationship, has to do with more this insidious trauma, this long-lasting trauma that's going on for decades. So it's very interesting, and I also, when examining these lyrics, I also found traces of other traumatic evidence, like this reoccurrence of traumatic events, the flashbacks, and depicted also in Cedarwood Road, the fear that's never going to get away, and you re-experience it. And also the hyper-vigilance, this constant arousal. You're fearing what is going to happen next. Like I depicted that showed that in the beginning of the master. I included a poem by Paul Muldoon. It's called Ireland, and it's about this feeling that you never know who you can trust. I quote, "The Volkswagen parked in the gap, but gently ticking over. You wonder if it's lovers and not men hurrying back across 2 fields and a river." And I think there's so many layers, there's so many things to dive into here, and now it feels like I've just begun. It's just like I could be reading endlessly about this, and I've really taken interest in it. So I'm so happy that you asked me to talk about it. I mean, this was like a surprise to me. I didn't realize it was going to happen, but yeah, I'm so thrilled about that. And in my conclusion, I also found this with religion, because in the thesis, in all of the chapters, in a way, that there are the recurrence of different themes that like love and unity, victimhood is very important, and also religion, and these things are the way pretty ambiguous, maybe a little bit but still they work together. And I also concluded that religion, as we know in this conflict, is very much part of the conflict. But what I find is really cool is that Bono, in the lyrics of Sunday Bloody Sunday, in a way, in the final lines there, he it seems to me, as I interpret it, he inspires both sides in a way to transcend this conflict, to look above the conflict and to unite in Christ, because in the final line he's alluding to Easter Sunday, to the resurrection, to saying that to claim the victory Jesus won. And I think there's a major lyrics. I think he I love the way he writes it. Yeah. So and of course I'm also amazed by, I didn't realize that so much of the lyrics really have so much of traumatic evidence. That's also struck me as significant, and in a way showing that whatever you experience in your childhood playground or in your life, it's hard to shake off. It's hard to rid oneself of trauma. It's like a baggage, a heavy, I would say the German, a heavy coffer or a heavy, suitcase it is. I talk so much German, sorry, I just forget about the English word. It's like a baggage. It's hard to rid oneself of, and that is what is manifested and embodied in the lyrics on the most recent albums, because this is where U2 addresses these things belatedly, and that is also very important when it comes to trauma. It is nachträglich belated. It's like a belated response to what you have experienced, and it might come on years after you have been going through it. So I found those things very interesting, and it struck me. And then we can just say that for all the people who have been affected by trauma in various ways, I mean, talking about the troubles, I can't even relate to how bad it must have been, and maybe still is, because I live in Norway. I haven't experienced that, but all people, or some of us, we experience trauma on other platforms or in other places in life. So what I think, what is like, there's a hope in the book. I dealt with a little bit Dawson. He has written a book, Making Peace with the Past. So I mean, there is the possibility of not, giving up, just being like a victim, like Bono also writes, or U2 writes in the lyrics of please get up of your knees, like really encouraging the victim to get out of being this victim, to break free, and like Dawson writes, to in a way to inspire or evoke the resources of hope, so that living can go on in the wake of trauma. And that is my hope in writing it. I mean, that in the end, there might be traumatic growth. People can transcend the conflict and the scars and the deep wounds, that there is hope that they can be healed, because it's not an easy fix, that's for sure. And but I think I've learned a lot. This is the best year in a way I've had. I mean, I've been studying English for 25 years ago, and then it's like a comeback because of all of the children. And I'm so glad I waited this long, because if not, I wouldn't have been able to. I mean, the lyrics hadn't been written yet if I'd done it 25 years ago. So this was really, really great. So yeah, I think this is what I had on this little talk.
You talked a little bit about your thesis and the topic, but what was it that inspired you to choose this particular topic? Not just U2, but focusing on the lyrics and the troubles and this, your particular focus. Was there something that led you to that?
Yeah, in the first semester, when I studied with the English master, I attended a course called EN 436, Literature and Political Trauma. And this was Professor Armstrong has held this course, and there was this focus on Northern Ireland, and I knew immediately just by reading it that I want to do this. And it was so worthwhile, very interesting. And I didn't realize that 15 years ago, I thought, oh, it would be great to write something about YouTube. But I didn't think of it through, I mean, like having to do anything to do with the Troubles or trauma. But this course, of course, then inspired me a lot, because there was trauma theory in combination with history, the history of Northern Ireland, and also literature. And I was thrilled when I saw that the U2 song Sunday Bloody Sunday wasn't the curriculum, and I was just like, yay. And I love U2. I said that in the first class, and I picked the song for a presentation, and I did the presentation in September 2018. I'm so old I can say it's a zodiac moment or whatever. It's like something I remember. so this kicked me off, and I remember saying at the end of the course, I'm going to come back here to do something more about this. I remember Armstrong telling me, well, Ingunn, it's a bit early, but I knew I wouldn't be okay. Utopian literature and also this paranoia and conspiracy literature that I studied the next semester. Of course, it's okay, but it's nothing like trauma. It's a bit weird to say I love trauma, but it made me realize so many things, and it was so interesting. And then I realized I can examine U2 lyrics in relation to these topics. It was great. It was like a dream come true, and I was, wow, this is it.
It doesn't exactly feel like school anymore when you're doing U2 studies, or that's how I feel when I'm doing my U2 research. I was so thrilled also when I went to Dublin in 2019. It's the first time I went there, and with my mom and my youngest son. And then we, all of a sudden, I was in the buildings of the Rock and Roll Museum, because my son asked me, should we go there? There are beautiful, buildings in this area. Well, right, okay, it's okay, yeah, let's do it. And then all of a sudden, this picture on the wall, this picture that I love so much, the cover of my master thesis book, this U2 in 1981, this photo taken by this acclaimed rock photographer, Colm Henry, who kindly permitted me to use his photo on the cover of the book. And I'm so thrilled because of that. But we were there, and there's a U2 room there, and they've been so kind to me. And thanks to them and to the supervisor, Grain Ray, I mean, I'm here because you picked up my thesis through them. I think they posted it. So that inspired me, because I went there to look at it for myself, what happened in Belfast. And I was taking a guided tour by a Catholic driver, a taxi driver, and it was really interesting. And you really saw both sides are victims, both sides are traumatized. And it was really, that also inspired. But then I had already decided upon what to write, but it was really an inspiration as well. Yeah. That's great. So I have your thesis right here, if you can see all my notes all over your front page. So I just have a couple of questions, things that really really reached me in the thesis that I just wanted to ask you about, if that's okay. So page 10 was something that was the first thing that really grabbed me, was when you talked about the sectarian lines in Northern Ireland keeping people out, the Catholics and the Protestants and the, however you want to label them, and but the Berlin Wall keeping people in East Germany and East Berlin. And that really struck me, I think probably because, Berlin has such a connection to U2 with the recordings of Achtung Baby and that time period, and how Achtung Baby was sort of recorded in Berlin, and the whole thing about the wall falling down at the time, and zoo stations, meetings, and all that. So how could you talk a little bit more about how you came to that idea, and what led you to that idea? Yeah, it's a good question. I had to discuss with my youngest son, because he was also there when I reached upon this idea. Or I think it wasn't me. I think it's thanks to this taxi driver, because we were standing there by the peace wall, one of the peace walls in Belfast, talking about this. And I think I brought up the Berlin Wall because I'm that old. I've been there. I've been walking along the Berlin walls before it was taken down. And then he said,
the Berlin Wall wanted to keep, or was set up to keep people inside, and of course it had to do with people from the east not fleeing into Western Germany and things like that. So it's very striking that this peace wall, and calling it a peace wall even, is very ambiguous to me. But keeping things out that had to do with people throwing things that could damage the houses. And even after the peace process, they added several meters to this wall in Belfast. But I don't know if I have so much more to say about it, but I think it struck me that this is 2019. The wall in Belfast is, well, some of the walls, they're still there, and they close them at night, and Sundays they're closed, and keeping people out, not hurting each other. So it had to do with that, to keep or to minimize the risk for conflicts. So a bit different, but still what the common ground is the wall.
Yeah.
Separating people. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me because in the last U2 conference, which was online, I did a paper on Donald Trump's wall. And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, so there's this thing about walls and U2 and bringing them, it's interesting how we find these themes and what they talk about. So on page 35, you were doing your really excellent interpretation of Sunday Bloody Sunday. And I just want to quote from your thesis, and you said, these different performances exemplify the fact that the song maintains its meaning at the same time as altering its significance. And you talked about that a little bit in your introduction to this. And I just want to talk a little bit more about that, because like I said, like songs have personal meaning to us. Like Please was not my personal meaning. It was a story I made up in my head, but there are songs of U2's that do have personal meaning to me. And it probably isn't the original meaning, or it was what you called the malleable significance, so that, you know, it's written with maybe a particular meaning in mind that they had in mind when they wrote it.
Yeah.
But then the significance changes. So whether it's a personal significance or their significance, for example, when they performed that one on the day of the Enniskillen bombings, which you mentioned as well, and that really strong emotion they had. And so that changes over time. And sometimes it changes for me based on what's going on in my own life. You know, for example, in current events, All That You Can't Leave Behind, for a lot of people that changed after 9/11. I know for me, that was the case as well, that I was in America at the time, and it was the first album for some reason I could listen to after 9/11 happened. There's just something very healing about it. And then it turned out that they performed at the Super Bowl in January of 2002, so 4 months after 9/11 happened. And it just seemed like the right thing to do for some reason for me, and obviously for the country. And so how do you experience this now as a fan? Because now you've done all this research, you've made the links with the Troubles. And so how do you listen to these songs now that you've been through doing all this analysis? Do you now listen to them as Trouble songs, or do you listen to them as however you heard them before you did the research?
I think maybe both. Yeah. Like, for example, the song One, I've always thought about it just as a relationship song. But of course, now I also see that it's been used like politically. So I think I keep both, layers open. But in the private life, of course, I relate to what's going on in my life as well. So I'm not dealing with political issues that much in my so I'm going back a bit to this the personal meanings of the song, but again, I find it very interesting, and I think what struck me was the great performance of One when they did it in this in New Delhi. No, was it Mumbai, India? Was it in December? Just before the pandemic, and that was really great, and the way he talks about this, and so with One, I at least keep the layers open to both, because I think I like the message of the song, the lyrics. I think they're inspirational, Yeah, so
Yeah.
that you can unite despite being, you know, not being the same. You can still be united. I mean, when you can, it's great. I mean, if you can't, it's very painful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, that's one is my favorite song of all time. I'll just say that now. But it, you know, but I can't listen to it all the time. It's because it's too powerful for me sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling at the moment. It might make me too sad, or sometimes I need to feel that way. And it really depends on my own mood and kind of
Yeah.
what I need at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
yeah,
Music is healing. I think it's great.
yeah. And so,
Yeah.
but then sometimes if I just want to get away, I'll just skip ahead to Mysterious Ways and dance around the room. You know, it's just
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's
all right,
great.
yeah,
I've been dancing
yeah.
in my kitchen as well. That's the only place where I'm dancing.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah. Usually when
Right.
nobody is home for me as well. So it's
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So this was an interesting. This was a question from another one of the conference staff. I think it's a great question, that the framing of love and religion as both problem and solution, as you mentioned it in the thesis, is intriguing. So religion might have caused the troubles, but then the love is also something obviously that heals and unites. And so they're both problematic in their own ways, potentially. A love of our own religion, or religion as conflict between different
Yeah.
people with different beliefs, for example. And so what are some ways that the way you two process the troubles in their art, in their songs, in their lyrics, could be modeled by other artists processing other traumas?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Of course, it's a bit hard to answer, to give good answer to it. But I think what strikes me here, and what I find really great about you two, is that they try to be neutral, to take a neutral stand, and to not just supporting one side. There might be critics who claim they, as I told earlier, they don't manage to do that. It's impossible. But as I see it from my perspective, it seems like they try to be neutral and to mediate. And I think that is a great vantage point for other bands to think like that. And they also changed the lyrics. Originally, there was an allusion to, or was it direct reference, I think, to, was it the IRA in the Sunday Bloody Sunday? And they changed it to make it more, applicable for both sides. And I think that is that is what I think is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So trying to create unity rather than the opposite is very important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's that day of the Niskillen bombing when he introduces it, and he did a lot earlier saying this is not a rebel song. The song is Sunday Bloody Sunday. He says that a lot of the performances, saying no, we're not being rebels, we're not we're not IRA, we're not anything, we're just sick of it all, as he says, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. So the overall themes, kind of in your conclusions from your thesis, are victimhood, trauma, religion, love, and unity. And there's a lot in that.
A lot.
And that's, like we were talking, how does the band manage to fit these together? Because they conflict, but they also work well together. Like you can hear a song and feel happy, even though the lyrics are really sad, or you can feel sad and still want to dance. And this is just my experience as a fan. I don't know if other people feel this way, but it's that, to me, it's like a spiritual reaction. Like if you go to a YouTube concert and it's like people say it's like being in church. It's like a, so how do you think, just as a fan, how do you think that works for you or for other fans?
Yeah, to me, I think that, I mean, all of those things, that the themes are part of life. So in a way, it tallies with how Bono looks also at Psalms in the Bible. There is so many times there is not just one thing. There are both things, both the painful things and the joyful things. And I think maybe it has to do with being honest about life. I'm not sure, but this is my personal interpretation. And I think in that sense, it might work together. because it's not like you can't say it's just about this and just about that. It's a mixture of things.
Yeah. So going back to your thesis again, we all thought it was great, but there's always something with any piece of research that you think, I might have done this differently. Is there anything that you would have changed if you had to do it all over again?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I can't pick one thing, but I would have spent more time like reading in advance, digging maybe more into the trauma theory. And one thing I would have wanted was like attending in advance an academic writing course, because it was that long ago when I'm not sure, how to write it in a way that is, the best way. So that I found maybe that was maybe not a challenge, but I would have done that if there was a possibility of that, because I can't remember studying that many years ago that we had anything like it, that now there is this course in academic writing. So I would love that. Yeah. And another thing is that I would not have stopped exercising during the last months of my writing, because then the lockdown came and everything was shut down, and I was just hanging there writing at my kitchen table, and I was very tired afterwards, but I really loved it, and it was like a void afterwards also, because I want to continue this. What happened?
Yeah, I would imagine that, because it's almost like when I submitted my PhD dissertation, it was like, okay, what do I do with myself? Like, it's done. But it would even be more difficult I would imagine, with lockdown, because then you can't do anything. Like, you can't go anywhere. You can't go to the shops. You're just like stuck in the house, and your thesis is in. I would have been like, really, what do I do with myself?
I live in the Norwegian countryside, hours away from the city, but still I couldn't manage to. It was like a bit hard, but I'm not sure. But I would do the topic over again. Everything was great about it. So
I thought it was great, and that leads me to my last question, which is, do you have any plans for future research in this area or any other area of U2 studies?
I mean, I would love to. I think I'm too old to go further. I'm not sure, but no. I'm not. No, I would love to, but I'm not sure how to attack it. But what I do for myself, like personally, is that I intend now to go through all the lyrics. I've started on the first album, and I pick up and I search for relevant lyrics, and then it's not about political life, it's about my personal life. And I thought maybe I can write small texts about those quotations. Not sure, it's just something that I started a little bit, but I will, no matter how old I'm getting, I will be hanging in with the lyrics. I really find that that's a great comfort in good lyrics as well, and inspiration. So I will definitely dig into it, and I plan also to read more, to dig into the books about U2, because I have a lot of books on my bibliography list, and I would love to read more about U2 and also more about trauma theory.
So anyways, thanks so much for this. It's wonderful. Do you have anything else that you want to say that I didn't ask about, or just anything that is on your mind, or have we covered everything?
I think you've covered it. I just want to say thanks again for contacting me, and I was I was so amazed and surprised, but it's been really great, and talking and mailing both to you and to Scott Calhoun. Great. I'm so grateful.
Well, when I first contacted you, I thought, is she going to believe this is real? Like, will she believe that? Will she even see my message? I was just so happy when you replied.
I can admit I hadn't been answering, Scott Calhoun, because I'd been fooled by a fake Bono, and I was a bit. I was so thrilled that a fake Bono told me that I was amazing and he would want to read my thesis, and well, of course it was not real, and I was very I can't answer, and I should of course have known that. I mean, the book of edited by Scott Calhoun was, after all, on my bibliography list. It's hilarious. I didn't pick up that, and I thought, oh, this is dangerous. I have to wait. But then you came in there, and then, oh, he said, she's a friend of mine. And then I added it.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to check us out at youtubeconference.com. We have a new website with links to all of our social media, which will also be at the bottom of this video on YouTube. We have a new website. We have a Discord server. We have Facebook and Twitter, and possibly more things coming up soon this year that are pretty exciting, but I won't say anything for now. And thanks for watching again, and thank you very much, Ingunn, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, the same. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.